Back on Hittin' Harder with Jon Chuckery and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Head to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. When you find our page, hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment, including an apology for the Marcelo Zuna stuff right down there in that little box there. Free and available on all your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. 5-star review us. And, of course, give me a follow on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. Bad news yesterday for both the Atlanta Falcons and Marlon Davidson. We got word yesterday that he had to have his knee scoped, have a procedure done. And while it's not a long-term thing, he's going to miss at least all the rest of the preseason. And there'll be questions about whether or not going into week 1 against the Saints, what his availability is. That is, if he is on the roster. Now, I talked to D-Led yesterday about this, had D-Led on my radio show, and we were kind of talking about the idea of, I think it's very, very possible now that Marlon Davidson will be cut and he will not be part of the 53-man squad or even on the practice squad as far as that goes. And I understand he's a second-round pick. You're trying to figure out some things about him. You know, when you read where he's at right now, most of the quote-unquote pundits, experts, or Falcons reporters think that he's about like one of the 4 guys or a 4th guy as far as a rotation of guys at defensive tackle. Probably not going to start, but in the mix in the rotation. And look, he's been as frustrating as it gets. He looks the part. I've seen him at camp, stood right next to him at camp. He looks great. I know he's leaned down a little bit. He's looking muscular, looking good, right? You know, but let's be honest. Besides being injured, he's made one play as a Falcon. That was the interception, the pick 6 against Tom Brady last year. That's it. That's the only play he's made. And that's because he's barely been on the field. What's the old saying? You can't make the club in the tub. So it's frustrating. I was really hoping that Marlon Davidson would have this kind of breakout year. Now, look, I'm prefacing with all this and saying, I don't have any insider information. I'm not telling you for sure what's going to happen. I'm telling you about my gut. You know, the same way I told you about Marcelo Zuma. That's all right. We won't get into all that. But anyway, I wonder whether or not he's going to make the 53-man squad now. He's already fighting and battling with a bunch of other guys to get playing time. And now you're going to be out. Now you got your knee scoped. You haven't had any past history. You weren't drafted by this group of, coaches and front office and all that. Everything is just pointing in the wrong direction for Marlon Davidson. Maybe they like him enough that they want to keep him on the squad and they're going to use him and things like that. And look, a lot of hopes for him coming out of college, right? He played defensive end. He played defensive tackle for Auburn. He's kind of showing that, maybe he was the guy who benefited from playing next to Derek Brown, right? Who was an outstanding player at Auburn and is starting to figure some things out in the pros too. Maybe he was the guy who just benefited from playing next to him because that's what he's starting to look like. But this is not what he needed. This is not what the Falcons needed because the Falcons, we keep talking about, and I'm like ready for them to sign something. They don't have very many answers to stand next to Grady Jarrett. I feel like they've got their guys, Ogundeji, Lorenzo Carter, Ebiketie. Okay, those guys are going to come off the end. We know Grady, but, Taquan Graham, the Marlon Davidson, look at their interior defensive line that goes with Grady. It ain't much. It ain't much there to get excited about. So this was bad news all the way around because now the Falcons can't really get a good evaluation of him. He doesn't have a lot of history, and obviously Davidson himself needed to prove some things. We'll talk more about this in just a second here, but first, let me talk about my folks over at coffeeam.com. You know my routine. Every morning, get up. First thing I do, make that pot of coffeeam.com, put their coffee in. Today, I mix a little bit of the flavored coffee in. Love these folks over here, local to the state of Georgia, up in the Canton area, the best small batch coffee roaster in America. Here's what we want you to do. Head to coffeeam.com/lockedon. coffeeam.com/LOCKEDON. Want you to take a look at their wide menu. You need K-Cups, you need flavored coffee, you need this, you need that. Everything's available to you. You need teas, gift sets, a mug, whatever like that. Go to coffeeam.com, check through their extensive menu of products that they have, and here's what you do. Put that first order together, whatever that order is, coffees, teas, gift sets, whatever. Put all that together, and then when you get to checkout, use the coupon code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, coupon code LOCKEDON, and you'll get 15% off that first order of coffees, teas, or whatever gift sets that you purchase. Locked On at checkout, LOCKEDON. Get 15% off that first order. CoffeeAM.com, the best small batch coffee roaster in America. So, look, at this time of the year, when guys are sort of on the fence about their roster position and things like that, getting hurt really because it's not just the 2 preseason games, right? The Falcons are going to start some joint practices with the Jets today. They've got joint practices with the Jaguars next week, right? And those are opportunities for guys like Marlon Davidson to make a name for themselves and for them to make a roster and things like that. So, look, there aren't, I think, a whole lot of questions about the 53-man roster as far as who's going to make it. There's a spot here there, right? How the wide receiver is going to sort out. Nobody who gets cut's probably going to be a real surprise. How do the running backs get sorted out? I'm not going to be surprised if Caleb Huntley doesn't go back to the practice squad and they keep kind of their main group with Avery Williams and CP and, maybe Allison. Maybe Allison makes it, doesn't make it. But it's not really like those big names. But I think they were hoping and kind of counting on that Marlon Davidson would be part of the solution this year. But if you can't get an evaluation on him, this group didn't draft him, right? He hasn't done anything for, this team and hasn't really shown that there's all that upside and things like that. I'm not going to be surprised if they end up moving on from him. And again, I've talked about the cash money that they have available. I think the focus should be their defensive line to play with Grady Jarrett. I think they need more help inside to play along with Grady Jarrett, to take some of that pressure off him. So we're not looking at Grady Jarrett getting triple teamed last year, right? Watching those videos of 3 guys on the offensive line triple teaming him, So I think that defensive line help, because I think they've got their offensive line pretty well set as far as, do I love it? No, but I think they've got the guys that they want to run with, right? Could you use more help of course, you could always use more help on your offensive line. But I think the defensive line is the part where you look at that interior part and you say, there aren't a lot of really good solutions there. One piece, Grady. Now you got to figure out more than that. I think they were hoping for Davidson was going to be a part of all of that. So tough break for him. Obviously, we'll see what happens in here. And this, by the way, this preseason is going to wrap up pretty quickly. We got a game coming up on Monday, and then they're going to play again on Saturday. So they're going to play Monday, joint practice with the Jaguars later in the week, and then play again on Saturday. And guess what? That's it for the preseason. That's it. You're done. That's your 3 games. Time to get your roster put together and start, thinking about getting organized and ready for the New Orleans Saints after that. So not good timing on everything. And obviously, between Drake London not getting a chance to see him, not getting a chance to see Marlon Davidson, you hate to see anybody kind of get hurt at this time of the year, but that's sort of where we're at. Whether he makes the roster or not, that's going to be interesting to see. My guess is he might not make the 53-man out of all of it. All right, when we come back, going to make another Falcons proclamation when we get back based upon something that I saw the other night. Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.